So yeah, let's discuss a little bit about today's topic, which is on the power of active listening. Super important. The appraisal time is right here, and it's very important to listen with open ears, some feedback about ourselves, also give us some feedback and give ourselves some feedback. Be all open to feedback, good, bad, and uh, and then try and process it and then react, I think. I remember you hosted a session on the power of listening, I think a few months ago, and you had mentioned this that it is very important to process the feedback. It was on the
Absolutely.
feedback cycle. And I think we are back again, and I think it's the right time. We are approaching the appraisal time, and it's very important to have that listening power in us. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to this session today and learning a lot about how to be super attentive and be super active and have that listening power. So over to you, Santosh. I will wait. We'll give another minute for more people to join. Till then, we would love to know more about you. How have you been? And then please take us through the session.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Pinkasha. So, uh, preparing for this session has been a double-edged sword for me. So, I've kind of took enough time to reflect upon myself, where I am right now when it comes to active listening, especially pertaining to relationships, my family, and professional work, where I stand, and yeah, where I need to be improving. So this session has definitely helped me a lot in learning myself. And yeah, with that, I would say I've been a facilitator for close to about 14 years now, and I come from varied background. I was into teaching, I was into training, I was also into coaching, and yeah, so this is something that I always loved doing, right? So I've had the privilege of even teaching in government school classrooms, and that's been a great learning experience for me personally, because I went in thinking I would be able to teach people, but I came out learning a lot about the education system, about people, about teaching, about training, everything, right? So that's about me. I'm married to an angel whose name is Angel, and I have a 5-year-old daughter who is an angel again. So yeah, been in Bangalore since birth, and I can call Bangalore my home. Yeah, so that's about me. And this evening we will be talking about the power of active listening, right? So can I go ahead, Pinkasha? What do you think?
Yes, let's go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah. And now, please just let me know what you think about this. What could be your response? How do you feel? What if there was no misunderstanding between you and your loved ones? How would your relationships improve? Have you ever given a thought about this? How could it be if there was no misunderstanding at all between you and your loved one, someone that you treasure a lot in your life? How would it be? How would your relationship improve? I'm pretty sure we would move from this to this, isn't it? And yeah, it's about personal relationships. And then, what if you could negotiate in a way that wins both the deal and the client's trust? How would it be? Wouldn't you feel elated, happy, and really look forward to building a long term relationship with a client, giving you business on a very long term, right? So, negotiation from this to this is what we aim at, even as we go through this session. And now, What are the benefits of active listening? Why should we be even learning about active listening before we get into what it is? First and foremost, it would help us understand things way better, right? So we would have improved understanding of everything that we seek to learn or even converse about. It would enhance our relationships, both personally and professionally. And it would help us in our conflict resolution in a win-win manner, right? And then it would also increase our productivity because we are listening actively, we know what we ought to do, and we do it. And then finally, it would also strengthen our leadership skills. And once it strengthens our leadership skills, the consequence, the result is you are growing in your career path, right? So these are the benefits of active listening. And now, what if I asked you to just look at all the phrases here and see what actions you've taken through this week, starting from Monday onwards? Could be personal or it could be even professional. And how would you uh, make a bingo with this? For example, if I say I avoided distraction, I took notes while speaking with my client, I asked for clarifying doubts, and then I avoided multitasking, looking at phone while talking or conversing. And I also asked open-ended questions, not just yes or no questions. That gives me a bingo like this, right? So in your case, it could be this way as well. Like it could either be horizontal or vertical. Let me see how many of you would come up with a bingo. If you do come up with a bingo, just go ahead and put bingo on the chat. I'm not going to ask you, but yeah. Just look at all of these actions here. Interrupted someone while they are speaking, talking. You checked your phone, you scrolled through it while somebody else is speaking. And then while somebody else is about to finish, you are finishing their sentence. And even as they are speaking, you're preparing your own response or your answer. Or as they are talking, you say, okay, I understand. Uh-huh. Oh, wow, tell me more. So in a way, you are kind of validating what they are telling and their feelings as well. And you keep nodding. I hope you've had enough time to just look at all of these things, right? And there you go. What is active listening and how is it different from passive listening? What is it? Active listening is the ability to focus completely on a speaker, the one who is speaking. Why? To understand their message, what they are trying to convey, to comprehend the information, to process the information, and to respond thoughtfully, to reciprocate in a meaningful manner. That is active listening. You're actively focusing, right? You are there, you're present. And what is passive listening? When you put this against the active listening, passive listening is when you are hearing someone or something, it could be a video or your lesson, whatever it is, right? You're doing that without putting 100% of your attention towards listening, right? Or reading. And this is a type of communication that is pretty one-sided. And here you would want to somehow just keep responding, right? So here you're not giving your 100% focus. Here you want to respond more than you want to listen. That is passive listening. Now, just go to chat and type which of these two listening is the best to help you in your communication. Active, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Garish. Ramakrishna. Yes, yes, absolutely. And now, in which one of these do we struggle the most? Do we struggle the most when I want to actively listen, or do I struggle the most when I want to passively listen? Passive. Okay. Thank you, Girish. Yeah, absolutely. Passive and at times active too. Yes, yes, Dayakar. Struggle in passive. Yes. Most of us are indeed struggling, right? And we are passively listening, and that's a great struggle for most of us. And this session is going to help us with how to actively listen and make the best out of every single conversation, both personal and professional. Let's just get into it. Now, what are the 3 A's of active listening? 3 A's to easily remember, right? The first A is attention. You give your 100% focus, right? You give your full focus onto the person that is talking or speaking, right? It could be a conversation, or it could be a classroom or a boardroom meeting. When somebody else is speaking, you give 100% attention. And the second A is acknowledgement. You go, oh, yes, and you keep nodding. Okay. And you look into their eyes, right? And what are all of these things doing? They are acknowledging that you are indeed listening. You are giving the acknowledgement to the speaker that you are indeed keenly, actively listening. And it gives the speaker more confidence, and it gives the speaker great pleasure to communicate what they are communicating, right? So you use verbal and non-verbal cues through your body language and through your words. It could be a oh, is that so? Okay, listening. Yeah, what happened next? Right? All of these verbal and even non-verbal cues. That is acknowledgement. And then finally, you get into action. Action. How do you act once you've listened, right? You respond thoughtfully. Your response is meaningful and thoughtful. So, what do? You paraphrase whatever you've heard. Oh, I understood it this way. Is this what you meant? Right? You are putting it across so that you would know what you understood is exactly what the author or the speaker intended to tell, right? And then you also ask a lot of questions. Yeah, I didn't understand that aspect. Were you trying to tell this? The answer would be yes or no. Okay, can you just elaborate on that? It's a open-ended question, right? So the speaker would have more motivation to open up and say more. So what are you doing here? You are paying great attention to the speaker or the course material that you are studying. And then you acknowledge both verbally and through nonverbal. How is that? You are using words, you're nodding, and when you're reading or listening, you note down things, right? And you keep nodding. And yes, and finally, when you've done all of that, you act on what you've listened. You respond thoughtfully, or you note down as you've gone through the course material. So these are the 3 A's: attention, acknowledgement, and action. Attention, acknowledgement, and action. Now tell me, which of these areas do we tend to fail often? For me, most of the time, it's attention, right? And if that is where we fail, we would fail in every other aspect. Attention, yes. For some of us, it's action. Thanks a lot, Girish. Yes. We at times go ahead and acknowledge and stop there. Oh, okay. And then you don't respond, right? Attention and action, Shruti. Yes, absolutely. Right. Perfect. Glad to hear from all of you. Now, let's move on. What are the barriers to active listening? What are some of the most common barriers to active listening? The first one being distraction. The person is talking or is speaking or is teaching, and you are fiddling with your phone, right? You are scrolling through it, or you are multitasking, you are writing a mail while you are listening. I tend to do this often when I'm communicating with my wife, or when my wife is talking, I keep scrolling through or keep texting about business or work or whatever it is, right? And this is one of the most common barrier. We do not give undivided attention to the speaker. And more often, my wife would say, you are not respecting me as a person. Why? Because you're not listening. And that's the cue that we are giving to the other person who is talking or speaking. When we are distracted, they feel disrespected, right? They feel like we are not respecting their time, their energy, their knowledge, their expertise. So that's one of the most important, or the most common barrier when it comes to active listening. And then you have assumption or bias. You are listening, but then you already judge the other person, or you've already kind of uh, judged what they are going to end it with, right? How it's going to pan out. So you are listening to the person with a preconceived notion or a preconceived judgment. So even before they are giving their reasons, you already judge them, and you are preparing your response as to how you can tell that they are wrong, right? So, yeah, assumption or bias or preconceived judgment is the second barrier. And the third and most important barrier, where most of us struggle, is even as the other person is speaking or talking, we are processing a response. How am I going to respond to him? What are the proofs that I'm going to produce before him, right? And prove that the other person is wrong. Or how am I going to justify that I am not wrong? So we are all processing a response. So this happens to be one of the most important barrier when it comes to active listening or even communication. And what do we do? And as we are processing the response, we fail to listen to the other person's argument or negotiation or feelings. And then we end up blowing this conversation out of proportion. And this definitely doesn't end well, right? Oh, yeah, thank you. I don't know who is behind iPhone. You've asked what is assumption or bias. So when the speaker is speaking about, uh, let's say, stock market, and the speaker is trying to drive home the point that this market that is diving down, is taking a deep dive, will definitely grow in the future, right? But you sit there and are listening, and you're having the assumption that this market is not going to grow in the near future, at least for 6 months. So there is no way you are going to listen to the entire argument of the other person, right? So you already have a assumption that the market is not going to grow in the 6 month. But what the other person is trying to tell is, he is persuading you to stay with your investment because the market's going to grow, but not in the next 6 months. It could take another 5 years in the very long run, right? Yeah. So you have a preconceived judgment. So these are the three barriers. We are distracted, we have already judged, or we assume a lot of things, and then finally we process a response even before the other person has completed. Absolutely, yeah, it is negative. Definitely not positive. Positive would give a lot of benefit of doubt to the other person, right? Yeah. And now, how do we respond to these barriers? How do we overcome these barriers, common barriers? First and foremost, we ought to practice mindfulness. What does that mean? You stay fully present in that moment, focusing on the speaker without letting any distraction. It could be phone, it could be a pen in your hand, or even looking all around the room, right? Without letting any distractions or internal thoughts interfere. You are 100% focused, you are mindful, right? So you are very, very intentional in listening. That is what practicing mindfulness would mean. And the second one being the RASA framework. If you use RASA framework, you would really outgrow yourself when it comes to active listening. What is RASA? R stands for receive what the other person is trying to tell, right? Receive, keenly focus, and then appreciate. After you've listened to all that they've told, appreciate them for even giving their opinion, for telling what they told, right? For taking courage to come forward and give you that feedback. And then you summarize, hey, I heard this and this from you, and you're also expecting me to change in this aspect. Is that right, or am I getting you wrong? You summarize, right? And then finally you ask for suggestions. Okay, now tell me how I can improve this, especially when it comes to feedback, right? And I'm pretty sure, even as Pinkasha was talking about, how we've come to a period of the year wherein we would be getting into conversations about appraisal, about self-assessment, about work assessment and stuff. Please always go with this framework. Receive all the feedback, all the assessment, and then appreciate, be grateful for all that they've told. And if you disagree with any, summarize and say or ask questions. Is this the area where you'd want to improve? Because I think this is the area where I thought I improved a lot from the previous year. And then you can give them some proof, right, of how you improved in that. And then finally you ask for suggestions. And then finally, embrace silence and pauses. This is something that I learned, right, in my classroom. I taught in government school for 2 years through an NGO called Teach for India. And at times, when I'm trying to engage kids, I would want them to give a response. Most of the time, our kids would not be in a position to respond, right? And that is the moment I learned that, silence or pauses are healthy, right? That is the time when the other person or the audience are taking time to think, receive, reflect, process. You definitely give that awkward silence, right, some time, so that people would indeed think and come back. So allow moments of silence to give speaker or audience space to gather their thoughts and then to process. And then, let me tell you, when you've given them enough time, many days, for over a long period of time, you know what? These silence, awkward silence or pauses would not be awkward, right? Many times, even as I engage audiences, I would have asked them to put things on chat. Many of them would not, right? Because it takes time for folks to think, type. So I don't sit there feeling awkward. Oh, why aren't people just chatting it away? right? Putting it on the chat box. So yeah, we need to embrace these silences and pauses. And now, what are some of the tips for active listening? When you are in a meeting, there's something on chat. How to summarize? Absolutely. Now, imagine your manager is talking about a particular project and has taken at least 10 minutes to tell, elaborate about the project and your role in it. And you are going to summarize by telling what you understood about the project and your role. And you will just do that in 30 seconds, right? And that is summary all about. Summarizing is all about just putting whatever you understood from what you've listened across to the other person to see if indeed you've gotten their intended message right or wrong, right? So that is what summary is all about. You just listen keenly, and then whatever you understood from what you've learned, you summarize it. And now, in a meeting, how do you actually listen, right? For you to actually listen in a meeting, you need to take notes, right? Without taking notes, let me tell you, summarizing would be impossible, especially if you are a person who is very forgetful, like me. So I carry notes. I use Google Keep to just type away anything and everything that my manager or my supervisor or even my subordinates are talking with me. So take notes. That's going to really help you, because after 4 hours and you are trying to recollect it as you're talking with another person who is also within that context, you you tend to forget, right? When you have a notes, you can go back, and you also would not misinterpret or mispresent the other person when you take notes, right? And ask for clarifying questions, especially if you're not able to understand certain things. Ask. And then finally, avoid interrupting. When somebody is speaking, let them finish. And even as they are going to end their sentence, just raise your hand, show that you want to speak or you want to follow up with a question, right? These are the ways that you can actually actively listen in a meeting. And then when it comes to one-on-one relationship, use open-ended questions like, can you tell me more about that? Most of us struggle a lot when it comes to one-on-one relationships. Why? Because this is the relationship wherein you tend to have the third barrier, right? And what is that? You are actively listening to respond. That is all that you are doing. And especially when it comes to spouses talking or communicating, there you go, right? You're struggling a lot. There's a lot of misunderstanding and struggles and even fight coming out of such misunderstanding. So what do? You always ask open-ended questions so that you will be able to understand what the other person is trying to tell. So always use open-ended question, not a question that would make the respondent respond with yes or no. Now, in conflict resolution, when you are struggling and you have a conflict and you want to resolve it, listen to understand, not to justify yourself, or not to put the other person down, or not to tell that you are not wrong, right? Listen to understand what the other person has understood or what the other person has against you. And then finally, always give the benefit of doubt. What is giving benefit of doubt? Always think, what if the other person might be right? What if the feedback is right? And what if the other person giving me the feedback wants better for me, what's good for me, right? These are the questions that you need to be asking yourself when it comes to conflict resolution. Any doubts here? Please go ahead and type. Okay, since there's no question, I'll move on. Thank you. Always give benefit of doubt. Uh, Now imagine your peer gives you a feedback and tells, hey, during client meetings, you keep interrupting a lot. And the moment you hear that, it's a bad feedback, right? Or negative. I won't say bad feedback. No feedback is bad. It's a negative feedback. So how do you respond? You in your mind would always think that, okay, what if he is right? What if I am indeed interrupting the clients? So that is giving benefit of doubt, or telling, okay, what if my wife is right in giving this feedback to me? What if I am wrong? That is what giving benefit of doubt means to others. Even as I'm telling this, my wife here is laughing out loud. Yeah. So in conflict resolution, is there need of adding statement of understanding? Mm, you can. I mean, it depends on the context, but you can always go ahead with that. If I perceive the person's point is wrong, can I strongly disagree after conversation? Absolutely, you can, right? You can, and you should, because you need to advocate for yourself, right? And if you're wrongly being pointed at, please do that. But let me tell you, do that in a very non-offensive manner, right? Don't let your anger flow out in words of you know offense, or don't show through your eyes or your body language that you are angry, right? You can do that in a very non-offensive way, and then you can also bring to the table the points, right? The proofs to tell that you disagree and why you disagree. And if the other person is mature enough, he or she would definitely come to the table with an objective to resolve the conflict. Yes, disagree in a very persuasive way. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Girish. Yes, Neela. Giving benefit of doubt can be tough sometimes when ego gets hurt. How can one handle that? Any tips or suggestion? Um, I think ego is one of the main and greatest enemy when it comes to relationships. You may disagree with me. Many a times we all fail in relationships because we put our ego ahead of the other person, right? The spouses can actually agree to that, and even add to that. Neelab says, totally agree. Yes, absolutely. Many a times we go through a lot of disagreements, misunderstanding, because we put our ego in front of the other person, ahead of the other person. That is where I say empathy plays a very vital and important role. Always be kind and empathetic towards the other person, even if the other person is wrong, right? So give them the benefit of doubt. With my wife, I go about uh, you know as many say, men, even if they are not in wrong, they tend to apologize. Why? Because we want to win the person, and we want to win the situation, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to prove myself right. And so what do? I set aside my ego, I apologize. And there will come a time when the other person would understand that, right? And it goes the same at workplace as well. So yeah, Stephen or Covey's, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Absolutely. Thank you, Ramakrishna. Very, very valid quote from Stephen R. Covey, right? So, yeah, we need to always listen to understand. We should never listen to reply. And that's the worst place to be in. And we would goof up our business deal, our relationship at workplace, our future prospect in career, and who is going to talk about being miserable and without peace at home, right? Because of the way we deal with uh, people, especially loved ones at home. And now let's jump into some paraphrase challenge. One of your team member comes to you and he or she tells this. The marketing team feels the sales team isn't providing enough data for the new campaign. While the sales team thinks the campaign doesn't align with the customer needs, we need to mediate and see how we can avoid delay. Now, how can you paraphrase this and summarize this to the other person? The marketing team feels that the sales team isn't providing enough data for the new campaign. So there's some discord, there is some misunderstanding, right? And two departments are coming to you with their problems. So, how would you respond? The better way to respond is like this. From what I understand, there's a disconnect, a disharmony between the marketing team and sales team. Okay, just hold on one moment. I am extremely sorry. Apologize for that. Yeah. So you respond by telling, from what I understand, there's a disconnect between the marketing team and sales team. So marketing needs more data and sales feel the campaign isn't customer focused. So they both have their own understanding of the scenario and they have their feedback. So we need to resolve this soon to prevent any delays. Is that accurate? Right? So this would allow the other person to come up with more data points and then you can easily sort it out, right? And next, in a personal scenario, I've been feeling overwhelmed lately because I'm trying to balance work, gym, and spending time with my family. I know I need to prioritize, but I'm not sure where to start because everything feels important at this moment. The markets are down, companies are firing people left to right, and what to do? Uh, I need to prioritize my work, but at the same time, my wife needs time, my children need time, my parents need time, my ailing and old parents need me to take them to hospital to give more time to listen to them. How would you respond? It sounds like you are juggling a lot right now: work, fitness, family, and you're also struggling to figure out what to prioritize because it all seems equally important. Did I get that right? This could be a way you can summarize. Thank you, Girish, for the previous point. Girish uh, tells that you need to talk to the sales team with the available data and then look forward. Provide the data to marketing, yes, and do experiment on the priority and check the result weekly or time bound. Wow, beautiful. Thanks a lot, Girish. That's the solution to, right? Yes, absolutely. And now, once you've done that, you can go ahead and start discussing about how to prioritize, how to balance life, how to take care of self, how to take care of family without feeling missed out on one or the other, right? And now let's look at some of the important aspects of verbal communications and nonverbal communication. in verbal communication, words and language play a very important role. Sometimes the word you use can offend others, right? So always choose non-offensive words, non-offensive language, right? And choose non-ambiguous words, which means, you choose words that are specific and relevant to the situation and context. So choosing clear and appropriate language for effective expression. Tone and pitch, emphasizing how tone can convey emotions and intent, right? Sometimes you can say that you're not angry. Can't you see I'm not angry? But your tone is telling to the other person that you are indeed angry, right? So just be mindful of your tone and your pitch, because they tell a lot about how you're feeling than your words. Your words may tell otherwise, but your facial expression, your tone, your voice will always give clue to the other person. Volume and pace, understanding how variations in volume and speed impact communication. Sometimes we have super intelligent people among us who can quickly process things, right? They are extremely good in interpreting, understanding, processing. So what do? They also speak fast, right? So if you're such people, I would request you to kind of tone down your pace, right? Because many of us listeners, especially in India, we struggle when it comes to understanding or even listening to a speed talker, someone who speaks fast, right? So, yeah, and if someone is speaking fast, please stop them, interrupt them. This interruption is good, right? Because you're doing it for your own better understanding. You just interrupt them and say, excuse me, I really appreciate you, but I'm unable to follow you because you're a little bit too fast for me to understand. Can you just speak a little slower, right? So that's very important. And then non-verbal communication. Body language plays a very important role, right? We need to understand gestures, right? When you speak, you use your hands as gesture, right? Even your posture, you need to sit straight. You can't, you know uh, slouch and then listen to someone. They would think, oh, you are extremely tired and not interested at all. So you stand straight, your neck is straight, your eye is looking at them. So all of these things matter, your facial expression as well. So please study body language so that it acts out for your own benefit. Why? So that you would master it, and you would communicate a lot through your body language, and you would also be able to understand the other person and their body language. Because many a times, most of us would be speaking something, but our body language would be telling totally a different message from what our words are trying to convey, right? And then you have eye contact. Oh, glad to know that this is a useful advice. Yeah. Thank you, Girish. And then next is eye contact. This is one of the most important one, right? Uh, when eyes meet, there's more than words, right? And you would have seen this in most of the Bollywood movies and Indian movies. Eyes speak more than words could, right? And people can actually convey their feeling through eyes. How amazing it is. And many of us fail. Let me tell you, 90% of us fail when it comes to eye contact. So it is always my intentional intentional habit, that I always look into the eye of the person with whom I'm speaking, especially when it comes to expressing my feeling or what I am feeling. And then when I'm giving advice, or when I'm telling them certain things that would help them, right? Why? Because when you have eye contact, you tell the other person that you are really interested in that person, and you are indeed doing this in a manner that is definitely going to help them, right? So always maintain eye contact, because it is one of the most important aspect when it comes to communication and conversations. And then finally, proxemics. you know just see how far or near are you. There was a time when I would be talking like this, the camera would be like very close. I learned that I need to be not too far and not too close, and this would actually be a sweet spot when it comes to non-offensive and non-intruding. And if I am speaking like this, you would feel like someone is coming into your personal space virtually, right? The same goes even while we are speaking with people in person, right? At least have, say, 5 feet distance, right? So that the other person may feel comfortable. And if you go closer, right, beyond that 5 feet distance into the personal space, that is the space where we consider our personal space. And I don't really want anyone to come close, right? So please don't ever do that unless and until that person is a loved one. And even a loved one would not want you to come into your personal space depending on their feelings. Appreciate that and take a back step, right? So all of these things are very, very important when it comes to communication. Keep this at the back of your mind. Both verbal and non-verbal communication is important. Now, what are some of the key takeaways from whatever we've learned, right, in this session? First and foremost, maintain eye contact. Right? There can't be more emphasis on this than what I've given you, right? Always establish visual connection to tell the other person that you are indeed engaged and focused. Non-verbal cues, nodding, smiling, open body language. Use your hand when you're communicating. Just go to and fro, walk around if need be, right? When you're presenting something. And all of these things signal that you're actively listening. And then avoid distraction. Uh, you know, uh, Half an hour with my wife over dining table from 8 to 8:30, or whenever we have food, she or we have collectively come to a decision that we will not use phone, right? We will leave the phone somewhere else and will come to the dining table without any distractions, so that when we are eating and speaking, we are just fellowshipping and growing closer each day, right? And once we started doing this, we our fights, the frequency of our fights and misunderstanding came low, because my wife would bring to the table all the things that she's been wanting to tell me, right, during our dinner time. And it's the same with me. And our daughter speaks so much about her class, and what's happening among her classmates, right? So avoid distractions. Every night when I go out with my daughter for half an hour walk, we take both our pets, right? Princey and Nancy, pug doggies, and I leave my phone at home and walk, right? So that my time would be with my daughter and with my pets. My daughter enjoys loving, my pets and petting them. So, yeah, how to avoid distraction? You know, don't keep your phone in your hand, keep it in your pocket. Or if it's a meeting, just keep your phone face down so that you would not see any notifications, right? And put it on silent mode so that you would be there and not be distracted. And don't have a pen and keep clicking it, right? So avoid distractions at any cost. And if anything is causing you to look away from the person to whom with whom you're talking or conversing, just leave that. And we all know what distracts us the most, right? And then ask clarifying questions, seek further explanations to ensure that you accurately understood the other person. And if you are misunderstanding them, they would say, hey, no, that's not what I intended, that's not what I told you, please understand. And then they will say what they intended to tell. And you have, by doing this, kept misunderstanding away, right? And then ask reflective questions to yourself, right? And then you listen and you reflect as you are listening. Paraphrase or summarize at the end of every conversations. Why? Because you've listened and you understood. Now you're paraphrasing as to how you understood, and then you're summarizing, so that what you understood and what they intended to tell is indeed the same. And at the end, show empathy. And finally, respect silence, right? Allow pauses, allow time for the other person to reflect. Don't shout into their face, respond. What's taking so long? Why is it taking so long? Right? And always give space for the other person to communicate. So these are the most important things that we are going to take away from this session when it comes to active listening. Anything that you'd like to ask or you'd like to add, please go ahead. I think I've uh, had some wonderful insights from Girish and others, right? Even Neelab. So would love to hear from you as well. And if you have any question, please just go ahead and ask. We can discuss now. Glad this helped you. May I know your name? The person behind iPhone.
We've also given them
Kiran.
access to unmute themselves and talk.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
If any one of you would like to just unmute and then come and share something, please, you're welcome. It could be either asking questions or you'd like to share something from your own experience. Please do. Hmm. Thank you, Neela. Perfect. Okay. Neelab, I totally agree with you. Some of us just can't be actively listening unless we fidget something, right? And that fidgeting is actually keeping your mind alert. So the best way to go about is telling the other person, hey, please don't mind me fidgeting with this pen. It actually helps me when I'm listening. If at all you think that this is distracting, please do let me know. And I hope that this won't distract you and you don't mind. The moment you tell this, right, the other person would never be distracted, would never judge you, or would never think that this fidgeting is actually uh, distracting or is not adding value. He would rather think that this fidgeting is adding value because he's keenly listening, right? And is helping the other person. So we also need to be very empathetic towards the other person who is fidgeting, because many of us, we just can't listen attentively without fidgeting something. Thanks a lot, Ramakrishna. So glad to hear that this helped you. Lack of interest can be considered as barrier. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Lack of interest. I mean, you would show it, right? When you're not interested, you would not look at the person. You'd be looking at your watch. You'd be looking at the clock, or you'd be looking out of the window. All of these are clear signs that the other person is not listening. Glad to hear that, Girish. Thanks a lot. How to deal with someone who is not listening actively? Perfect. I remember going out with a friend of mine, and even as we were talking, one of the most important aspect pertaining to our lives, he suddenly took his phone out and opened Instagram and started scrolling. I just looked at him, smiled, and asked, "Hey, did you just unconsciously take out your phone and open Instagram?" And to be honest, he told yes. Some people are so distracted and are addicted to social media and doomsday scrolling that even without any intention, involuntarily they take their phone and start scrolling or are distracted. Just ask them kindly, smile, and ask, "Hey, am I boring you with what I'm telling? Looks like you're a bit distracted." These are some non-offensive ways, and they would definitely say, "Hey, hey, sorry, I'm extremely sorry. See, have this bus to catch," and hence the hurry. Can you quickly finish what you're trying to tell? So these are some of the ways to deal with it. Hope that helps, Neela. Anything else? We still have about 5 minutes. Two more. Nice session. Glad I could help. Glad I could help, Bharatwas. Appreciate it, Neela. Anything else? Pinkasha, would you like to add? Or anyone else here?
Let me see if there's any pending. I think you answered most of the questions, all the questions actually, Santhosh.
Perfect.
So
Thanks. It
thank you
seems
so
I'm
much.
actively listening and
Yes, of
engaging.
course, of course.
Uh,
No, I hope everybody also had the chance to actively listen. So thank you so much, everybody, and most special thanks to Santosh. And yeah, looking forward to more sessions with you and listening to you.